Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 59 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Joey and Nick. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling great, feeling great. Happy 4th of July, everybody.
What's up? Happy to be here with you guys. Talking free agency. Got the first couple days wrapped up. Lots of interesting signings.
Yeah, a lot of very interesting signings. This wasn't a crazy free agency class, but there's been enough news and enough player movement to make things very interesting and us have a lot of things to talk about. I've written down every single signing here to have all this stuff in one place because a lot has definitely happened. Before we get started, big thank you to everyone who checked out the live stream, the free agency live stream, our very first live stream. And it was a lot of fun. So we're thinking about maybe doing some more in the future for sure.
I will
Do
make
you got
sure.
LeBron James on that long list over there?
I do have LeBron James on this list.
Do you
I
have
do have,
Bronny James on that
oh,
long
oh,
list over there?
oh, Bronny James. Oh no, rookies don't count. Even though Joey and we were talking in the pre-pod lobby, I didn't realize like the terms of Bronny James's contract that it was 4 years, 8 million, where only the fourth year was a team option, where all these top picks, the automatic thing is the third and fourth year are team options. Bronny just automatically gets the first 3 years guaranteed. Which hey, you can do that with LeBron. You can do that with
and
LeBron
he'll
for
be in
sure.
the G League this is pretty much this whole season. Have fun.
Yeah,
Getting
most
paid like
likely.
$2 million for that.
Yeah, I mean he'll have a lot of time to develop there, but let's get started with free agency, probably with the biggest news that we all had an idea of happening during the live stream, but it didn't become official until that night, late in the night, and it is Paul George officially signing with the Philadelphia 76ers, coming back to the Eastern Conference for the full 4 year, $212 million max contract. The Sixers were willing to give him the max, and that was kind of where his guys and the Clippers, they kind of separated talks because they didn't want to give him the max. The Sixers able to give him the max. Paul George headed to Philadelphia to form a big three with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Nick, we'll start with you because we know you're a big fan of Tyrese Maxey. And with Paul George going to the 76ers, how do you feel first about him going to the Sixers and how this could affect the Eastern Conference?
It's reminiscent of when a certain player took his talents to South Beach in 2010.
Wow.
Because they definitely do make a pretty significant jump here in the East, I would say, for a team that's never made it out of the second round. But the big thing is going to be health with them and playoff performance down the stretch. How else are they going to fill out the rest of this roster? And can they get enough guys in there that are going to fill the roles if one of those guys do end up going down at some point, I guess?
Yeah, now, Joey, we'll go to you next. Now, Paul George was not the only signing that the 76ers made. They went out and did a couple of other big moves, signing veterans Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond to contracts there to help the 76ers depth there, because coming in this summer, they only had like 3 players under contract.
I think I saw that they re-sign Kelly Oubre as well. I think I
They
saw.
did re-sign
That's
Kelly
another
Oubre as
big
well.
good role player for him as well. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with Nick on this one. It all depends on what they're going to do the rest of free agency to build that team around those big guys, because that's obviously a superstar loaded starting lineup that can compete with Boston, New York, and the top teams in the East. However, it is also about health. Tyrese has been fine. He's been healthy. It's Joel, hopefully, and Paul George. Hopefully, his injuries are behind him. But I think it just comes down to Joel still. I think this team still lives and dies with Joel Embiid if he's healthy or not.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, it's Joel Embiid is their best player. I mean, he was incredible last season when healthy. And, despite us, saying whatever we've said about him during the playoffs, you cut out some of those awful fourth quarters he had against the Knicks. He was incredible in the playoffs as well. Like, he had great numbers in the playoffs, was incredible during the regular season. I do have a question for both of you guys. So Paul George, a couple days before free agency started, it was reported that he was taking meetings, and he took meetings with the 76ers, the Clippers, and the Orlando Magic as well, also an up-and-coming team in that Eastern Conference. Do you guys think that Paul George made the right choice by going to the 76ers?
100%. I think he did. I'm glad he's out of LA. I'm kind of over any LA media getting the star players. Just they're not winning anything. Neither of these teams are winning anything. Your best chance to make it to the finals is through the East. And if it was between the Sixers and the Magic, hey, I love the Orlando Magic. I'll be the first one to tell you that. However, I think with his age and getting this kind of max deal, I think it just bodes well better for the Sixers.
Yeah, I think he made the right decision. I'll just keep it short and sweet because my answer is yes.
Yes, I would agree with that as well. I mean, you think this is probably the best situation that Paul George could be in at this stage of his career now, 33, 34 years old. And he's going to be the number 3 option on this team. I think he's going to be happy to be able to take a step back and not have to do so much offensively, because regardless of, like, even with the Clippers, them having Kawhi Leonard, James Harden getting there last season, he still had to do a lot last year. And he was great last year. When you look at his numbers, he had the best percentages of his career offensively from the field, from 3. He was great last season, but I'm sure he's happy to be able to take a step back, and still on nights where, you mentioned Joel Embiid, not the most durable player, where he can step in and be a number 1, number 2 guy on a playoff team.
It's why I also, again, I'm happy he didn't go to LA. He deserved, based off of last year, still performing at a high level into your 30s. You deserve, this is your last chance to get that kind of 4-year max contract, which he was looking for. LA, again, I think we talked about it last time. Smart of them to not give it to him, because it's going to handcuff you if you give Kawhi and Paul George that kind of money. But in Paul's eyes, and in our eyes for Paul, he deserves that kind of money, especially how he's playing. So I think Philly's the one that gave it to him, and I don't know. I think they're definitely a contender for Eastern Conference Finals now.
I don't know about that, because I still think the Knicks and the Celtics are both ahead of them, and the Bucks are also in the conversation, along with the Cavs, who just re-signed Donovan Mitchell, who we'll talk about. But it really is going to depend. Can they get, like, we've seen it go one way with the Suns when you, like, have a big 3 like this and you don't fill out the roster. Like, they don't have a single 3-and-D guy on there yet. Like Eric Gordon, Paul Reed, Kelly Oubre. Like, none of those guys really aren't, like, molded like a 3-and-D cookie cutter guy.
Yeah, like Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon was he was capable of playing defense a little bit in Houston, but he's like 6'4", and he's pretty old at this point.
My question is, do you guys think with Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey all locked up for the next 4 seasons through 2028, you guys talked about last chance for Paul George to get a ring. Do they have enough time? Can they fill out the roster, and then can they figure it out within the next 4 years?
See, it's a valid question. Well, we should mention, so they've made these great, signings. They do not have a power forward currently on their roster. They still have to go out and look for them. And even still, like, we're 4 days into free agency, and there are still some names out there. Like Miles Bridges is someone that no one could be reporting, but I'm very interested to see what happens with him, because we were talking about him, probably the whole season, like, oh, he's a Piston. He's going to be a Piston. But right. Tobias Harris, ironically enough, goes from Philadelphia to the Pistons for 2 years, $52 million, which I honestly think is a pretty decent signing for the Pistons.
Agreed.
But at this point, could Miles Bridges, like, we don't really know what his market is, similar to a guy that was also on that Hornets team last year, Kelly Oubre. who goes to Philadelphia for a 1-year bet on yourself type deal. What if Miles Bridges ends up going to the Sixers on a, small little deal? That'd be something there.
That would be nuts.
Yeah, that would be a solid next starter. It'd be a solid another power forward. Like he was power forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when you look at
forward mix, like he could
yeah,
do both.
because
Forwards is just positionless now. There's no 3 or 4. It's just forward.
Yeah.
It basically, like, nowadays it's like for positions it's guard, wing, forward, big. That's pretty much all it is at this point. But when you look outside of Miles Bridges at power forwards on the market, like Sadiq Bey played a little bit of 4 last year with Atlanta, but he's coming off of an ACL injury. We don't know how long he's going to be injured. When you look at the rest of this, Caleb Martin, he's coming from the Heat. He's probably going to leave Miami, and I don't know if the Sixers will be able to give him the deal that he wants, but maybe he could, or maybe they'd be able to do that. But outside of that, like, you got Dario Saric, a former Sixer, Precious Achua. That's like really all the power forwards out there on the market. It's a very sparse, market out there at the 4 position, and it's going to be difficult for them to make a trade. I don't really think they can make a trade unless it involves Paul Reed in a sign and trade, because, like I mentioned at the top, they had 3 players on their roster coming into free agency: Joel Embiid, Paul Reed, I believe, and I want to say Terquavion Smith or something like that, like some lower end guy. Or no, Ricky Council the 4. Okay, same.
Ricky Council, yeah.
Same deal. But anyways, Joel Embiid, obviously you're not trading. Paul Reed is someone, he's going to be their way to get a starting power forward, because you can't trade players that you just signed. I mean, it defeats the purpose. So they need a power forward unless they are like, hey, we have Joel Embiid in the middle to protect the rim. What if we start Paul George or Oubre at the 4 and just go all wings and Tyrese Maxey at the 1 and just have Embiid in the back line to protect the paint?
They can trade the Cavs like a 2nd round pick for Georges Niang and take him back. Like,
do you guys think they'll bring Kyle Lowry back in or go for a guy like Dennis Smith Jr.?
What do you think about Jared McCain? You're the rookie for him.
Oh, true.
I don't like Jared McCain. He's a TikTok star.
Disregarding that, his basketball skill, could he be a backup point guard immediately from day one? Again, this is a team trying to compete for a championship. Nick, what do you think about his on the court skill? Forget about all the off the court stuff.
I think I didn't really take a big look into him because I didn't think he'd be drafted in the lottery. But during this, I wasn't convinced. I guess during the season at Duke, I watched him a lot, but I didn't think he would. He skyrocketed a lot after the season. Like his draft.
You're asking the wrong person, because Nick's a Tar Heels fan and you're asking about a Duke player. You're asking the wrong person. Nick thinks he's gonna fail right out the gate.
Yeah, at least
where the Tar Heels at.
At least Duke, they create, ready point guards already.
He had a great March Madness, and to me, that's where those
Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was ready when he left Australia at
literally.
Or whatever.
He was, but they've also got Tyus Jones,
JJ Redick.
That's an interesting question, Kyle Lowry. He's a guy. I think that he would go back to the Sixers.
Yeah,
I would think
for those.
Well.
He's a good veteran for those guys, I think.
I just think that their biggest question is the 4 position. Because, interestingly enough, so even before this Paul George news broke out, it was already reported that Nick Batum was going to leave the Sixers. So I wonder what happened between him and the Sixers to where he was already planning on leaving when, he played decent at the power forward position for them. Obviously a veteran at this point, but he's someone that when you look at this team right now, he'd be someone that you could play even if it's just to start each half and not play huge minutes. He's someone that I feel like could have helped them.
Yeah, he almost won them one of the middle playoff games versus the Knicks.
He won them the play-in game
Right.
against Miami.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You could make a case for because he was great on both sides of the court.
Must
in
have
that
got
game.
into it with the owner of the Sixers or the
Daryl Morey.
Oh, Daryl Morey.
you go at Daryl Morey, your career is over in Philly.
I know we said we talk about the East and stuff, but I kind of feel like we need to talk about the Clippers side of things.
Yeah, let's talk about the Clippers. Real
Because
quick.
they made a couple of decent moves. They signed Derek Jones Jr. They signed Mo Bamba.
They re-signed Harden.
Yeah, they paid Harden a lot of money.
Okay, so before, I guess, talking about the Clippers, talking about the 76ers as well, I just love how over the last 2 seasons, they've kind of just flipped rosters.
Yeah,
literally.
Honestly.
Like we mentioned, Nick Batum, he's going back to the Clippers. Mo Bamba from the Sixers last year is going to the Clippers.
Paul
James
George
Harden,
from the
of course.
Clippers to
James
the
Harden.
Sixers. Harden Sixers to the Clippers.
Eric Gordon was a Clipper. He's a 76er now. It's just funny how they've basically just traded these rosters away. But no, the Clippers have made some solid moves. I think Derek Jones Jr. only going for 3 years, $30 million. Maybe my biggest surprise.
Yeah, it's still underpaid.
I'm just confused because we'll get to the team he came from, the Dallas Mavericks, a bit later, because I think they had a great offseason as well. But before it was announced that Derek Jones Jr. was going to the Clippers for 3 years, $30 million, they signed Najee Marshall from the Pelicans for 3 years, $27 million. So that makes.
Can I just say, because Zeke Najee also got signed, and I get Najee Marshall, Zeke Najee. Who is going where?
Zeke Najee Marshall.
But no, so when that was announced, Najee Marshall, he's a decent player. I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Derek Jones Jr. He just not as athletic, and he wasn't on as great of a team as the Mavericks, wasn't on that stage, but 3 years, $27 million. I'm like, all right, the Mavericks, they already got they're planning for Derek Jones Jr. to leave. They got their Derek Jones replacement, only for Derek Jones Jr. to leave to the Clippers for only $3 more million. What was it, a Derek Jones Jr. thing or a Mavericks thing that the Mavs lost him for over $3 million? That doesn't make sense to me.
I think the Mavericks fumbled that hugely because he was so important for them. He was arguably top 5 player for them.
Especially when you consider the fact that there's no state income tax in Texas and he's playing half of his games there. So, part of that $3 million would be recouped that way.
Yeah, that was just something that's odd to me.
Yeah, it is odd. I don't understand.
And the Clippers too, I didn't think you'd go to the Clippers to basically be their Paul George replacement. You look at their depth chart now after losing Paul George, Derek Jones Jr. is probably going to step into the starting 5, and then you got Batum and Bamba in there as your backup front court. But this is still a team with James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook. We probably will get traded. It was reported that they're looking to trade him. We'll see what they could get back for him. But this still is a team that, you can talk yourself into this team still being decent in the Western Conference.
They're still a playoff team, maybe. They still got Kawhi Leonard. If he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the league. Harden's still getting 2 years, $70 million. He still obviously deserves that money. Played great for him.
No,
you still got Zubac, who's a starting center. You got those positions covered. I think you're at least okay.
I will be advocating for Bones Highland minutes over James Harden all until it happens. Ty Lue, hit me up.
Ty Lue hit him up.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden. So James Harden re-signed for 2 years, $70 million. Too much, you guys think, or just right?
Too much.
I think isn't Ty Lue making close to the same amount? No, I think it's the right amount of years. And since the cap is increasing anyways, and you lost Paul George, I guess there's no one else to pay.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, fair enough. Especially if you're now looking to trade Westbrook. Reports that Denver is very interested in getting Russell Westbrook, which I think is huge for them, considering that they're one of my biggest losers of the offseason so far.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess we can transition right into that because they lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a key starter for them for the last 2 years, as he goes to the young and up and coming Orlando Magic for 3 years, $66 million. The big thing for the Magic to do this summer after their resurgent year going into the playoffs, taking the Cavaliers to 7 games, was that they needed to get a 3-point shooting wing player. Weren't sure if that would be a Klay Thompson, a Paul George. It ends up being a KCP. I think that all of us love this move for the Magic because KCP, he was just so good for the Nuggets and the Lakers when they won their championships. And even last year, Caldwell Pope was huge for Denver's success.
Absolutely crucial for those championship teams. That's exactly the type of guy you need. Besides just the 3-and-D, the championship experience, the playoff experience for these guys is huge. It's huge for them.
Dude, it really feels like Orlando's like one guy away now.
They're going for it. They're definitely going for it now. They see that they see that the Eastern Conference as a whole is getting better. They're getting right into that, getting themselves a shooting guard. Do you guys think that this team could be a home court playoff team next year?
I think it depends on how they progress. A couple of the guys. I think Franz Wagner, who to me is probably their second best player,
Oh, absolutely.
didn't play that great, didn't play like it in the playoffs, and they need him to be consistent. Paolo's obviously the superstar. To me, he doesn't need to get much better. Like that man is already like a bona fide all-star, just completely can carry this team already to the playoffs and 7 games against a Cavs team who is very good. But I think I'm with Nick. I think they're still one guy away, and if the Sixers and the Bucks are healthy again, or if they get healthy, not again because they clearly not, but if they get healthy, who do you put them above Boston, New York, Milwaukee, Philly, or the Cavs?
Hard to say.
Yeah,
Definitely hard
think
to
I
they're
say.
don't
right
think
there,
so.
sort of in the line for the third spot after Boston, New York, and I would put Philly in the 3 spot now
Yeah, potentially.
after their signings. But they're right there in the 3 spot, kind of fighting with Orlando and Milwaukee, or Cleveland and Milwaukee and Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, Orlando, they definitely, after going through the playoffs last year, I think that they understand, like, okay, we need to get home court. Like, we need to go for home court because you saw how much better they played in that series at home than on the road. And there's no bigger example of that than Franz Wagner, who you mentioned. I just looked at his numbers in the 3 home games in Orlando. Franz Wagner shot 58% from the field in those 3 games. And then when you look at the 4 games in Cleveland, Franz Wagner shot 28% from the whole field in that series. The home court advantage is real, and the Magic are going to go for that next season.
I think he just needs to take a more consistent role, adding guys like KCP. And if Anthony Black continues to develop, another guy that they just signed, 5 years, 84 million was it? I think the number. Jonathan Isaac, very very injury prone, but incredibly athletic and an elite defender when he's healthy.
Incredible defender. Like, he would be an all defensive lock if he played the minutes, but he just can't because he can get injury prone, and the Magic they are deep at that position as well.
They are.
I mean, you're talking about rolling out with KCP, Paolo, Franz, Wendell Carter Jr., and
Subs, probably.
yeah, they got a heavy rotation of guards in their guard room.
Yeah, I think they also re-signed Gary Harris back too.
They did, which is good to be their backup shooting guard because he was
Yeah.
good. He was good.
Solid, yeah.
I guess it's similar with the Sixers and the Clippers. I love this arc of Denver Nuggets shooting guards going to the Orlando Magic. Not just Gary Harris and KCP. You got guys like Evan Fournier, Aaron Aflalo. Like this is a long list of Denver Nuggets guards that go to or shooting guards that go to the Orlando Magic. Well,
I have to shout out the Orlando Magic front office and that organization because they are doing exactly what they need. Locking up your key guys, bringing in some veteran championship experience, and hoping your young core keep developing. That's like and just build around that. You don't like there's still like another guy away, but one of those guys could be Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black. Jonathan Isaac could come out and average 15 to 20 points a game if he's healthy. Like Wendell Carter too. Like you never know who's going to emerge with this much young talent on that team.
Yeah, I mean they're as Nick was saying, they're one guy away probably from being real legit contenders, and one of those guys could already be on the roster, and they just need to progress a little bit more.
100% agree.
When you look at this Magic team, so they obviously they signed Caldwell-Pope, they re-signed Gary Harris for 2 years, 15. They extend Jonathan Isaac, and they also re-sign Mo Wagner for 2 years, 22 million. And the only guy that they really lost, they lose Joe Ingles, who goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he was getting older anyways. So, but that opens up minutes for a guy like Anthony Black, Jet Howard. Caleb Houston is still a young shooter who I know Jamal Mosley loves giving him chances.
I'm a big Caleb Houston fan as well. Very athletic guy. I love the athletic guys because as long as you can if you're a good coach and you got good player development around them, you can teach them some of those things that you can teach. Shooting, you can always work on that form a little bit. But what you can't teach is athleticism, hustle, like that kind of stuff you get from those players. Oof, immediately sign on my team.
Yeah, and Caleb Houston, even with that, like at the very least, he's a 6'8" forward who can shoot threes.
Facts.
And this is a Magic team that needs 3-point shooting. Like Caleb Houston's a guy that played minutes at certain points just for 3-point shooting because they needed to add that to their lineup. So the Magic, great offseason from them. But I guess now let's shift gears over to the Western Conference. And let's talk about the reigning Western Conference champion Dallas Mavericks, who made a host of moves to try to improve their team that just made the NBA Finals a little bit ago, or just this last season. Most namely, signing Klay Thompson for 3 years, $50 million. That's the big name there. Already mentioned Najee Marshall. And then they traded Tim Hardaway Jr., 3 second-round picks to acquire Quentin Grimes. So those are the 3 moves that the Mavericks have made. Joey, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on, I guess, first of all, Klay Thompson going to the Dallas Mavericks and I guess the Mavericks' chances on getting back to the finals?
It's bittersweet. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-pod. As much as we hate Golden State, as Cavs fans, I respected the heck out of that organization, obviously, until KD got there but either way, they still built that core draft up. They just drafted these guys and then developed them, and then it all clicked. Klay Thompson was key to one of the greatest backcourt duos we've ever seen, part of a huge dynasty in Golden State, where they're one of the most valued franchises and most winning franchises in history. Like, he deserves a lot of that credit. But for Dallas, that's a huge get. We can all talk about Klay going 0 for 10 in the elimination game. I see it everywhere. The jokes are nonstop. But he's a perfect guy for just sitting there, knocking it down, still a good 3-point shooter. You're not the main guy. You're not the second option anymore, and you don't need to be. You got Luka and Kyrie. You just sit there and shoot. Play some defense. That's what you've always been good at. You can at least do that for a couple more years.
And we saw in the NBA Finals last year, big problem for the Mavericks. They could not generate open 3-point looks. And the few times that Boston gave up open threes, the Mavericks could not convert. So them getting Klay should help them there. But Nick, what do you think? Do you feel the same way that Klay could perhaps, be better than he was last year, or do you think that this might be when we look back on Klay's career, that this is just like, he's on the Mavericks and he really wasn't that good?
Well, whether or not he plays better or worse than last year, he's forgetting he's got four rings. But I don't know. It's interesting that he's going to be playing with Kyrie. That kind of breaks my heart.
It is crazy. After all that, Kyrie cooked Klay so many times. I've been watching some of those finals games.
The Christmas Day game.
The Christmas Day game. That game 5 in 2016 was unbelievable from Kyrie. But
I would be relieved. I don't have to play against it. I don't have to guard that dude ever again.
Thanks.
Well, actually, every day in
practice.
Yeah, in practice. We gotta see some leaked practice footage from the Dallas Mavericks.
No, I think what you said about not generating 3-point looks, they did generate 3-point looks like throughout the first 3 rounds. It was just the finals, really. Like,
very true.
That was the reason I took them over Minnesota, was because I'm like, Dallas's offense is just gonna be able to overpower, and Minnesota's not gonna have enough answers. And this is certainly in that same direction. Like, they're gonna score a lot of points.
Yeah, they certainly will. And look, when you look at the grand scheme of things, Derrick Jones Jr. is a pretty, substantial loss, but replacing him most likely with Klay in the starting lineup to be one of the probably the starting 3, you could call it. You'd say that that's an upgrade. Quentin Grimes is an upgrade over Tim Hardaway Jr. because at least he can play some defense. Even if his shot isn't falling, he can provide something on the other end. And Najee Marshall, he was their Derrick Jones Jr. replacement basically, but now he comes off of your bench. That's pretty good. I think that the Mavericks, they did get better. At least on paper, they got better from last year's finals team.
On paper, they got better.
I mean,
making it to the finals again, though, that's a tall order.
It was very tough. It was tough for them to make it this year. I mean, them beating 350-win teams to get to the NBA Finals. I mean, there's a reason we had never seen it before, because it's so difficult to do it. So, yeah, I think it is worth, though, talking about, that this is the end of a dynasty with the Golden State Warriors and how crazy it is. Like, now it's over. Like, I don't think that any of us ever thought that those 3 would get broken up, especially when it was happening. We didn't think that those 3 would end up being on different teams. Klay Thompson, he was probably the second longest tenured player of any franchise behind Steph Curry, if I can think of it, him getting drafted in 2011, and then Draymond Green getting drafted there the next season. They spent 12 seasons together on the same team, that big 3, 6 NBA Finals appearances, 4 championships, all those All-Star games, all the All-NBA appearances.
All right, I don't think it's sad anymore that you put it like that. I'm glad that it's over.
The nightmares are over.
The nightmares are over. But it is one of the greatest ages of basketball we've ever seen from a threesome, really. It really was spectacular time for basketball fans. Even though Kevin Durant kind of ruined it all a little bit in those 2 years. But even, 2015, 2016, this team was universally loved because, like you said, Joey, they were homegrown and they came from really nothing, because the Warriors, they were not known as a winning franchise until those 3 guys, all made it into Magic, had the 73-9 season, championship season. They are just incredible.
Yeah, they gotta shout out them. I don't know, man. Besides them, the greatest moment was Baron Davis dunking on AK-47 in the playoffs.
The greatest moment in 40 years, besides Run TMC.
Yeah.
Pretty much all they had until Steph, Klay, and Draymond.
I was just going to say, don't let Klay Thompson signing with the Dallas Mavericks distract you from the fact the Warriors blew it 3-1 in the NBA Finals.
Facts.
For sure. Klay, I was looking at the memories of Klay's time with the Warriors, and
thank you, Nick.
Yes, But it's just you forget some of these record-breaking performances he had. Like this guy had the most points in a quarter, 37 points in a quarter, without missing a shot. I think that sometimes gets forgotten. He went 13 for 13 from the field in that quarter, including 9 for 9 from three.
Wasn't there like one where he had like, and I forget how many points, but he only shot like, it might have been that game, but he only had in that quarter, but he only dribbled like 11 times. Like he did not dribble a lot, and he just still like went off.
Yeah, it's a separate game. 60 points on 11 dribbles.
Yeah, that one.
I think there was another one against that one against the Pacers. I think there was one against the Knicks where he had like 52 on 6 dribbles. It was unbelievable. Of course, the 11 threes in a Game 6 2016 against OKC to get Game 6 Klay was a thing
Klay.
for, I mean, let's be real. I mean, Game 6 Klay was really only like 2-3 games. But no, look, Klay Thompson, shout out to the Warriors, man, for that great dynasty. Much respect to all that they've done, but obviously all great things must come to an end. And now Klay Thompson is on the Mavericks. And I think that Golden State has actually done, similar to the Clippers, a decent job of trying to get their roster together for next season, despite losing a big name. They've signed DeAnthony Melton for 1 year, $12 million, another kind of bet on yourself deal after he had to deal with a lot of injuries last season with the Sixers. Kyle Anderson, 3 years, $27 million. There are reports that they are interested in trading for Buddy Hield to create.
They waived Chris Paul because he clearly didn't work.
Waived Chris Paul, well, because they didn't want to pay him. They didn't want to pay him the $30 million. They tried trading him and Wiggins. They tried the best they could, but Chris Paul out the door to San Antonio, which is a very awesome signing. But before we get to that, Golden State, with them getting all these guys, what do you guys think about how the Warriors have kind of thrown together this roster together?
What were they last year? Playing 10 seed?
Yeah.
They'll do better this year. They'll be a 9 seed.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't think they're going to be that much better. Like, I think they're still a playing team with these guys. They don't have – these guys are getting older. Steph can carry the team, but not like this.
This is starting to feel to me like, you know, with Steph just being left on this team, it's still being really, really good. This is starting to remind me of the twilight years of Kobe Bryant with the Lakers, where still really awesome, but the team just, he's not that great. But he's not going to leave the Warriors. He's not going to leave the Warriors.
You can't let him leave.
You can't.
They need Kuminga to be really good. They need Pods to have a big jump as well if they want to have any shot to get out of the play-in.
They need Draymond Green not to get suspended.
Yeah, that'll help.
It'll definitely help. It's crazy to think how their team would probably look completely different right now if Draymond Green didn't throw a punch at Jordan Poole heading into the 2022-23 season, coming off of their last championship. How that could completely have changed the way that these last years have gone for the Warriors, because everyone talks about it. There's just been a different energy these last 2 years, and it all goes right back to that moment where Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole in the practice. Really is crazy to think about how that could have changed.
Now that Klay is gone, and even though none of us, or at least I didn't think that the three of them would be separate and they would all retire, and the Warriors did say they are 100% going to retire Klay's jersey. They couldn't overstate how much he meant to them, and they respect him going someplace else. But with that being said, now that Klay is gone, I think Steph's the only one that's going to retire a Golden State Warrior. I think Draymond's the next to leave, and he's going to want to keep playing. No, just knowing that, man.
Draymond Green,
let's go to the 3-on-3 league.
Big three, Ice Cube, let's go.
Let's see. So Draymond Green is under contract for the next 3 seasons still. Steph under contract for 2.
Oh, maybe he does retire with them. He's not playing. I mean, I get another contract after 3 years.
He could still retire a Warrior, but it is definitely still an awkward. It is kind of an awkward fit. He may transition to a bench role this season, considering Kuminga at the 4. They want Trace Jackson Davis was a steal for them last season. Same thing with Podziemski. Wiggins will probably still start at the 3 to try to raise his trade value. So Draymond Green could come off the bench at some point this season. But I mean, you got to give the Warriors some credit. They went for Paul George. They did go for Paul George. The Clippers didn't want to trade Paul George to the Warriors. What do you guys think about that? The Clippers not wanting to trade Paul George to where he wanted to go. Because there are certainly different sides you could take on this. Like Paul George, as crazy as it is to think, like Paul George is one of the greatest Clippers in franchise history. He is one of the greatest players that they've had in franchise history. When you look at the All-Star games that he made for the Clippers, they did make the playoffs every season. He took them to their only conference finals appearance in franchise history. All in all, his 5 seasons with the Clippers, he made 3 All-Star games and averaged 23 points per game. He is one of their greatest players in franchise history. Do you guys think that they, like, I know Draymond Green said on Hit Pop. Yeah.
No, they don't owe him anything because the first thing that they owed him was the 4th year in his contract, and they wouldn't give him that. So not trading him to his desired location, I mean, you kind of already screwed him.
It's a business. The NBA is a business. Like
plus,
you
Steph
hear it all
and
the
Paul
time.
George, like I said, would have just been a perfectly fitting dynamic duo.
Now that Klay's gone, I would have loved to see
I would have loved to see Steph and Paul George. On a similar note, you guys might have the same answer to this, but Klay Thompson legitimately being like, you can't argue, he is a Warriors legend. Should the Warriors have given him sort of a legend, contract, considering all he's done for them, the fact that he won a all he's done for that franchise, should they have given him the deal that he wanted?
He'll probably do like what Paul Pierce did, like sign a day contract so you can retire as a Warrior and all that kind of stuff. But you don't owe him that. He wanted to go other places. He wanted to keep playing. He wanted his money, and he still can play it. But it just the time is done. It happens. Yeah. I know Steph asked if he wanted. I saw the report that Steph asked if he wanted to use his influence and talk to the GM and all them and see, hey, do you want to see if I can get your account? He's like, no, don't do that. Apparently he was really salty. I saw this today, that he was really salty after the 22 championship, the way a lot of those players weren't getting re-contracts or re-signed.
Well, that Draymond Green got extended, not Klay Thompson.
Yeah. He felt really salty about that.
You do think when the summer where Klay Thompson had his first injury, his ACL injury in 2019, they gave him a full 5-year max, and they paid him his money for the 2 years where he was injured, the full max. So I think that kind of, I agree. I don't think that they really owed him that. And I think that Klay, I think that this was the time for Klay to go, and he goes to a very good situation there with the Dallas Mavericks. He could have gone to another team, the Los Angeles Lakers, who haven't done a whole lot this summer. LeBron James did sign a 2-year, $104 million contract there with a player option and no trade clause to stay with the Lakers, which was expected after they, of course, drafted his son. But, all the reports that LeBron was willing to take a pay cut for the Lakers to go out and get another, role guy, like a Klay, like a Harden, even a Jonas Valanciunas who went to the Washington Wizards. They couldn't get anyone, so LeBron takes the max contract, stays with the Lakers.
Rob Pelinka playing chess against himself. Like, literally. LeBron's handing you on a platter, hey, go sign somebody. Let's compete for another championship before I retire. I'll even take a pay cut. Rob Pelinka, are you sure about that? Don't you want the max contract? We can give it to you.
Yeah, literally for the first time in his whole career, LeBron's saying, I will take less than the most. And you do nothing with that.
And I mean, the Lakers tried, but Klay chose the Mavericks over the Lakers, even though it was for less money. Nick, you were talking about state taxes before. I mean, even though his contract would have been more in LA, it probably is the same amount from Dallas, just from taxes. So he picked the Mavericks over the Lakers, especially the Mavericks are in a better situation than the Lakers. They were just in the NBA Finals. That's a way more desirable situation than probably one season with LeBron James, most likely 1 or 2 years of LeBron.
I thought he would have gone there just because his dad was. I thought he would like to play under his dad's roof.
Yeah, his dad is
little
super
bit.
disappointed. His dad is very disappointed that he
But
didn't end up a Laker, but
I don't blame him. We all know how I feel about LA. Like, good for you going to Dallas.
yeah, and it is the more desirable basketball situation there.
For the Lakers though, did Russell pick up his option?
Yes, he picked up his $18 million player option. So, yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think the Lakers have made any other signing. They have not made any other signings besides their draft
rookies.
Picks.
Yeah,
yes.
Dalton. I just want to say, as much as I hate the Lakers, Dalton Connect, I also said was going to be like a bust. He's already one of my favorites. His jersey, he's Connect 4.
He is
Connect 4. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to be a bust when you fall all the way to 17th, so.
That is true.
I mean, he fell to a pretty decent situation there with the Lakers, but well, talking about some other signings here, we mentioned Chris Paul going from the Warriors. He got waived, and the same day goes to the San Antonio Spurs for 1 year, $11 million to be a veteran mentor leader. Joey, you're pumped about this.
Oh, so excited. Perfect fit. Perfect fit. I'm sorry. You want someone to pair with Wemby and you bring the point guard? Oh my gosh. I know he's not like a point guard, but he is a great definitely not anymore. But he is a perfect guy to help kind of coach these young guys with Greg Popovich. Like, he really just is. And not to mention, if Chris Paul wants to get in any type of coaching, this is exactly what Steve Kerr did. Steve Kerr went to the Spurs, played for them for a couple years when he retired, and now he's a multi-time champion coach. Like, this is the perfect step for him.
We were talking about it on the live stream, how at first I was like, wow, Chris Paul really going to the Spurs. I would have thought that at this point of his career, he would have gone to a contender to try to win a title. But at the same time, like, I understand you if you're Chris Paul. Like, you still want to show your value. At this point in your career, like, he may not win a championship, which is okay. He is one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. I think that he's comfortable at this point. Like, if he doesn't get a championship, that's okay. That's okay. I think that this is the perfect situation for him, and it should be a lot less stressful than if he were to go back to the Clippers or go to the Lakers or any of these big market or, contending teams. I think with the Spurs, it's perfect because they needed a veteran, they needed a point guard. Get both in one for cheap. You get Chris Paul. I think it's great.
Yeah, Joey, like you said, he could always get the opportunity to get a ring as a coach too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really is just not to mention, if you're Chris Paul and you're not worried about like the narrative everyone else is putting there, wouldn't you want to play with like a freak of nature like Wemby at least once in your life? You never got to play with LeBron like you always wanted to, like your best friend. So why not play with Wemby?
We're talking. He's the king of throwing lobs. Now he gets to just literally throw it anywhere. I cannot wait to see the highlights that we will eventually get. Not to mention him being able to mentor Stephon Castle, their 4th overall pick. That's going to be huge for them. For him to get a Chris Paul type veteran in there. Like, Chris Paul he's made for leading locker rooms. Like, the last couple of years, his last year, Phoenix, Golden State, Houston, Clippers. Like, once he wasn't able to really be that veteran leader, it really didn't work out the best. Like, he's at his best when he's able to lead guys on and off the floor.
If you look at it from the Spurs perspective, are they a playoff contender now? Probably not still. However, is this perfect for a development? So in 2 years, you are? Yes. This is exactly what you want as Spurs fans. I think it's going to.
Plus, you still want a good draft pick for next year because
Cooper
The other draft
Flag.
class is pretty good.
Yeah,
Cooper
that whole draft
Flag.
class for sure. So just great there for the San Antonio Spurs. Going around to other I guess big signings. Isaiah Hartenstein going to the Oklahoma City Thunder for 3 years, 87 million, leaving the New York Knicks to go to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and really, in my opinion, fill their only weakness, which was the rebounding.
This is like, I think, the most impactful signing, even like it's level pegging almost with the Paul George deal, because one, OKC, the number 1 seed in the West last year, get even richer and fill in one of their only 2 weaknesses, and they already did the other one with the Alex Caruso trade. And also because the fact that New York loses Hartenstein, like, it is just
Huge.
that's a blow for them, because there's question marks around Mitchell Robinson, and if he can't go, then that's a really big opening. It's a really big hole for New York.
We can talk about how happy the Knicks were, and then they just got sucker punched twice. Paul George going to the Sixers, and then Hartenstein leaving them to go to the Thunder. Oh, Knicks fans in shambles right now.
Now, look, I think the Knicks. Well, this is a valid question. Did they make the right decision going for Mikal Bridges and losing Isaiah Hartenstein, or do you guys think that they should have gone with last year's roster?
Then we'll find out if they make the conference finals or not.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
we will find out. We will definitely find out. But is
I
this
don't know.
team? It's hard to say. It really is hard to say. Joey, what do you think?
I think they should have kept it. I think the only problem was injuries this year, and if you're just injury ridden, kind of try to roll with it. Philly with the injuries, it's different because they already saw the jump New York made if they were healthy, and Boston they had to catch up. New York, if they were healthy, we were already thinking they can compete with Boston maybe.
Look, let's
Yeah,
be
it's
real.
true. I mean,
You're really telling me that the Indiana Pacers would beat a healthy New York Knicks team in 7 games? No, let's be real. It's not happening.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. It's going to be super fun watching the Villanova Knicks this year. Like, I'm very excited. However,
Here are the boys.
yeah, the Nova Knicks, but you losing someone like Hartenstein with Mitchell Robinson, how injury prone he's been, like Mitchell Robinson's can be a really good player, but you don't know when he's on the court. If you had Hartenstein and the way he played this last year for the Knicks, I think the Knicks fans really wanted him back. I think this is a big loss. I think they probably should have kept him, especially since they did re-sign OG Anunoby.
Well,
yeah,
they did. I think they did do all they could do. So they offered him as much as they could, Hartenstein, being 3 years, 74 million. If you're Hartenstein, I think Knicks fans are it's okay for them that Hartenstein left. Not for a team thing, but they can't be mad at him. It's not like he went and took the bag, in no disrespect with Jonas Valanciunas, to the Washington Wizards or some garbage team like that, or the Brooklyn Nets, the garbage fire franchise.
Yeah.
He took $13 million more to go to a team that was better than the New York Knicks and filled their main weakness, which was the rebounding.
He's going to be a main impact player on a championship contending team. As Knicks fans, you can't be mad at him. You can just be mad.
Yeah, you can't really be mad at anyone because he took the bag and went to a winning situation.
100%.
Now talking about this from the Thunder's, standpoint, from the New York Knicks. I mean, what an offseason for Oklahoma City. Before July, you get Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, who was unplayable in the playoffs, and your main weakness was rebounding and front court play, and you get one of the best rebounders, maybe the best rebounder on the market, one of the best offensive rebounders in the playoffs. This is just what an offseason, man. Hats off, claps to
the rich
Sam
get richer.
Presti. The rich get richer, and this team is going to be a force to reckon with. We'll have all offseason to speculate how they could go with their starting 5. I want to hear what you guys think. Who should they start to begin the season? Because they have a lot of options. They do have a lot of options, but what do you guys think?
I think to begin, they'll probably go like similar to last year, which would be J-Dub, Shea, Lou Dort, Chet, and then like maybe throw Caruso in there for Giddey. But
Interesting.
as the season progresses and depending on how guys develop in specific matchups, I think Isaiah Hartenstein slides easily right into the starting lineup next to Chet, and you just move probably Dort or Caruso, depending on the matchup, to the bench.
That's probably the lineup I like the most is Shea. Keep most of the lineup. Shea, Dort, just move J-Dub to the 3, Chet to the 4, and have Hartenstein at the 5. And then bring Caruso off the bench. Like, even though we talk about how Caruso is a great defender, man can be a spark plug on offense. He can go for 10 quick points easily, and that's having that as a bench guy. They also needed that. So,
I do like the double big lineup as well because I think Chet is very skilled as a stretch 4, and he will just be even more unlocked as a defender if he has another guy roaming down there near the rim.
Dude,
100%.
Chet at the 4 would be a cheat code in theory. In theory.
I mean, yeah.
Even so, you can have him still do the tip-offs. Still have Chet do the tip-offs. Just have Hartenstein play the 5.
Even though, I mean, and then you can roll out Chet at the 5, in certain situations there. But like the Thunder are just built perfectly for any opponent that they play against. Of course, when healthy. Like if you're going up against, a big team like maybe the Denver Nuggets, you go with Chet and Hartenstein together. If you're going against a small or the Timberwolves, you can go big with Chet and Hartenstein. Or if you're going against a smaller team like the Mavericks, you can play, Chet at the 5. They're looking so good, man. They're looking so good.
How do you compete in a loaded West? You do exactly what OKC does and stay at the top.
Incredible moves by OKC, and they still could make more. I'm pretty sure that they have 5 first-round picks in 2025. Though some of those have to get dealt because they cannot all come to this roster. So they could make some more moves this offseason, which would just be incredible. But going to some other moves, already briefly mentioned the Tobias Harris to the Pistons for 2 years, $52 million. What are your guys' quick thoughts on that?
Overpaid.
Have fun back in Detroit, I guess. Help JB teach those young guys how to play.
I might be a lot higher on this signing than most people. I honestly really like it because, well, first of all, you get a veteran in there. You get a guy who can, be an efficient 3-point shooter. When you look at the Pistons, they are absolutely garbage from the 3-point line, all their starting players, and their only open position really was that power forward spot. You get Tobias Harris. Like if he can do what Bojan Bogdanovic did the last 2 seasons for them for the Pistons, I think it helps out their young guys. Also, I mean, this is a team that could be wanting to get another franchise altering player, and they had, a lot of money to spend this summer. So you get Tobias Harris for only 2 years, $52 million. It's not an untradeable contract, not like the Sixers gave him. So if a team wants to take a flyer on him next season, a contending team, you can on an expiring deal, and maybe you can get a first-round pick back in return. So I really like this signing.
It's a solid, good free agency. It's what they need. It's a step in the right direction for a team that for the last 5 years has had no direction.
Yeah, like you said, a veteran signing fills a need in the shooting, and he'll definitely be happy with that contract, I would imagine. So he'll be able to have peace of mind out there while he plays.
Absolutely. Going down a couple more on the list. The Kevin Porter to the Clippers thing, we reacted to that live. That was a little bit strange. I find it a little weird or a little ironic that the Clippers have given contracts to Kevin Porter. Josh Primo was another guy. I feel like there's another, or not this season, but previously. And I feel like there's a third guy as well that was just like dealt with off court, shenanigans, we could call it, and signed them to contract to try to get them back in it. But
Was it Jamario Moon?
He's playing. Hey, we talked about the big three with Ice Cube. He's in there, I think.
yeah, he probably
Hey,
is.
did Kevin Porter Jr. ever play for the 76ers? Because
It's probably next on his list.
yeah,
he maybe could at some point. Jonas Valanciunas, 3 years, $30 million to Washington. That was one that we were disappointed with reacting to live on stream, but similar to Tobias Harris. I mean, a veteran, big on the Wizards. I think that's not a horrible signing at all for them or him. Able to raise his value up a little bit more. That's really all the main signings. We were talking about OKC. We didn't talk about them re-signing or Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins to very solid contract. Another thing with the Thunder to give them credit to, they do right by their players. I'll tell you what, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, both second-round picks. Isaiah Joe didn't really work out with the 76ers for him. They come to Philadelphia, or they go to OKC, and they're both on team options for this summer for very, very cheap, coming in at second-round picks. So Sam Presti could have just accepted them and be like, okay, we'll pay him for $2 million. He declined their options to pay them for 4 to 5 years. That I just have so much respect for teams that just do right by their players.
100% class organization. Another Sam Presti masterclass.
And it's not like, I mean, Isaiah Joe, 4 years, $48 million for a shooter. I think that's great. Aaron Wiggins was very, very solid. 5 years, $47 million. And I mean, another plus, you pay them their money and you make sure to do this a year. I'm pretty sure a year before next year's TV deal, where we may get a repeat of 2016 with the ridiculous contracts. So lock up your young guys before insane money gets thrown out there. That's really all the main signings out there. The free agent signings.
Oh,
now,
I was like, you're missing a big one. That's right on your shirt, mister.
No, yes, I'm not. No, I'm not missing. We do have to talk about Donovan Mitchell finally signing the 3-year, $150 million extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Nick was not a believer that he would re-sign. What are your thoughts on him re-signing?
Cavs are like the 5th or 6th best team in the East, so I'm glad we're excited for that.
Well, okay, Joey, you go ahead.
Come on, Nick. Come on.
What? What do you want me to?
Donovan Mitchell is real. He is here. He is here to stay. Get out, national media. I don't want to hear it. Y'all trying to put that narrative out there that he wants to go to a big market. No, he loves Cleveland. People love Cleveland.
We have a top 10 player. It's exciting. It's not.
Yeah. How many teams have top 10 players?
10. There's 10 of them.
Exactly.
This
We're an elite group.
Look, this is the second biggest signing in the history of this franchise, behind LeBron coming back in 2014. I think that's pretty safe to say, considering all that the Cavaliers gave up for Donovan Mitchell. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, like the Cavs, and I mean, I don't know, you guys can say if it's just because we're Cavs fans or not, but this is a team that could be pretty overlooked when you look at every other team in the Eastern Conference. When they did they are overlooked. They are overlooked. No one talks about them as a team that could be a legit threat next year. When they did make, I mean, they didn't make a significant roster change yet, but changing coaches can be huge for this team. That's a big thing. Everyone talks about how the core four may not work together. Let's see how it goes with an actual offensive coach, before you actually make any conclusions on it.
I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but Steph and Klay didn't make it past the second round with Mark Jackson as their coach. They switched coaches, and they immediately won a championship with Steve Kerr. That's all I'm saying. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Just saying. Not saying it's going to happen.
Yeah.
but there's a chance.
No, I think Miles, you guys make a very valid point. I mean, even if the Cavs were healthy this year, they probably could have given Boston at least game 6 or taken another one. But like roster-wise, I just don't see him in the top as getting home court advantage in the East right now.
Yeah, we can be pretty biased, but
They're
if we're predicting that every team is healthy next year, I'm still putting Boston.
Well, yeah, definitely.
I'm probably putting New York. I'm probably putting Philly, and I'm probably putting Milwaukee ahead of the Cavs. I'm not far off with Nick saying the Cavs are probably the 5th best team in the East if everyone is healthy. Obviously, injuries happen. With the Sixers, injuries are bound to happen. With the Knicks, injuries are probably bound to happen. With Milwaukee, injuries are bound to happen. So there's a chance we can still be top 3 in the East. But, again, injuries can happen.
I think the East is so crazy. You look at the top 8 teams from the East last year, playoffs-wise. I think you can make a case for every single one of these teams to finish 1st or 8th. You can make a case for any of these teams. That's how much parity there is in the.
Make the case for the Celtics to finish.
Yeah, please tell me the case of the Celtics making it in the 8th spot in the play-in.
Injuries. I mean, for injuries.
If Jason Tatum gets injured, they're probably going to win the championship again.
Oh, right.
Jaylen Brown's the best player, man.
Besides the Celtics being the 8th seed, but you could see them there's championship hangover all the time. It would not be a shock to me if they're not the number 1 seed again.
I think the Cavs top level, their potential is a little bit grayer than some teams because we haven't seen if the core 4 can work with an offensive coach. That's a great point. You're correct. But it's foggier, but it's also it's they could have home court advantage.
We just haven't seen the full potential yet, and there's no way for us to see it until the season starts because we haven't seen it with besides JB Bickerstaff. We haven't seen it.
There are a lot of question marks with this team. Because we've all been saying this whole season, and as Cavs fans do, we pay attention. What are we going to do with the core 4? Can Allen and Mobley continue to play great together? Is Mobley improving? Can Garland and Mitchell play together? Are we going to keep the core 4 together? Or are we going to trade one of the pieces and bring in an athletic wing like we all wanted? You never know. And now that we bring in the offensive coach, there's just so many question marks with this team. It could go as, like Nick said, we could get home court advantage, or we could be a 6 seed, or even a play-in if it goes really badly. You never know. There's just I think there's more question marks with this team than there is with any of the other top 4 teams. I think because with the other teams, they just have to be healthy and they're an immediately elite. I think.
I have the big team that I'm very worried about next year is the Milwaukee Bucks, who another team that are pretty under the radar, but they haven't made many moves. They signed Taurean Prince today. I am not really a believer of this team right now going into next season. If it's for any reason, they are old, and I do not believe in old teams. They are old as dirt. I don't care if they have Giannis as their best player and Damian Lillard in their 2nd season, which they're probably going to play a lot better. They're going to be great. Everyone else on that team is old as dirt, and old teams just don't get it done. You need some sort of youth, at least in that starting lineup, to play well. And maybe we'll see them move Chris Middleton or Brook Lopez to get a younger guy. But right now, if they have this same roster going into next season, I don't think that they do much next year either, just because they're old.
All I know is with like a Steph Curry, like a Giannis, like a LeBron, you have these MVP, great talents, greatest players of all time. Those guys can carry. We've seen LeBron take the 2007 Cavs team to the championship, to the finals.
It wasn't a bunch of old guys though.
It doesn't matter if they're old or young. The Bucks have a way better team than the Cavs did.
Oh, well, absolutely. But I don't.
That's what I'm saying. Like it does with Giannis and that team. You can still be a top 3 seed with that team if you're healthy. Doesn't matter if you're old guys.
Regular season, yes. Playoffs, I'm very worried.
Oh, playoffs, that's a completely different story. I'm talking regular season.
Yeah, regular season.
Top 4 seeds.
Yeah, they probably will because Giannis was incredible last season. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's huge for Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs organization. I think a lot of the questions that were being asked about if any of the core 4 are getting traded or anything like that, I think those all go to rest now at this point. Now that Mitchell stays, there were reports that when the Rich Paul news came out that he and his team were going to try to get Darius Garland to a new team. I've heard from some sources that Darius Garland was angry as heck when that came out because he doesn't feel that way. He wants to run it back with this team with the real coach. So I think that a lot of the questions do get answered with coaching. I don't know if you guys caught the Kenny Atkinson press conference, but I'm already a huge fan.
I caught a couple of the clips. I'm pretty excited.
Just because he actually talked about basketball philosophies and not just defense. We got to play a little harder. The refs, blah, blah, blah. That's really all you heard from JB and conferences. So I'm excited for that at the very least. But
yeah, no, I agree with that.
You guys got anything else before we get out of here?
No.
I don't think so. Shout out to the U.S. U17 men's basketball team destroying China by 84 points and then the Philippines by 96 points. Like, let's go, boys.
That's right.
My goodness.
That's majority or 2026 draft class, I think.
Yep.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, so I guess in the next coming day, there are still some decent free agents on the market. We still got to figure out what DeMar DeRozan is going to do because it doesn't seem like he's going to go back to the Bulls. Miles Bridges, of course. We got guys like Tyus Jones, some decent role players, Caleb Martin, that could go to, different teams and be impactful. So still a little bit to figure out here. We still might see some trades. And we've got Summer League coming up starting in the next few days. So we're going to get to see all these rookies and young guys get to play in the NBA for the first time. So it's a super exciting time.
Can't wait.
Here in the off season. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.